So this is the 0950 hours GMT edition of the Khoodeelaar television channel. Khoodeelaar television channel being broadcast on the internet under the banner of Baby Angel Geronimo editions. This is Tuesday, the 29th of August 2023. Just for the records and nothing but the records, we note this piece by the fascist, racist, criminal, liar, and inciter of hatred, far right criminal paid by Dirty Digger Murdoch, Douglas Murray. And he has got the heading, literally, it's criminal. We are having to tell cops to probe crimes. It's criminal that we are having to tell the British police to investigate crimes in Britain. Now, this is absolutely factually consistent with the evidence that the police are being needed to be or being kind of required to be told to investigate crimes in Britain. The British police, we have said since before Douglas Murray was born biologically, that Britain is a corrupt, criminally controlled state. It's a racist state, and when it comes to police crimes, there is no way to deal with the crimes because the entire culture is criminal. So for Douglas Murray's column as guest columnist on this scum to say it's criminal, we are having to tell police to investigate crimes, is not original, is not truthful, but it is consistent with the evidence, and he cannot claim to be telling the truth. Douglas Murray is one of the brigades of propagandists in the mainly far right-wing fascistic British media, who has been given the platform to incite hatred, to incite crimes of hatred. And he has not been supporting any actual accountability to be made possible for the haters, hate criminals, racists, imperialists. And the entire narrative in the scum newspaper, when it comes to crime and criminality in the police, has been denying that policing has been abolished. This is the first time that Suella Ivila Cruella Fernandez is being given a nearly credible negative coverage by the scum. There is no evidence that the scum, which has been owned by Dirty Digger Rupert Murdoch, which title has actually produced the main income that has made the Dirty Digger billionaire. His establishment in the USA, typified by the use and control of the Fox News, etc., would have been impossible without the money that the ordinary zombified Little English sun worshipping morons have paid him over the decades. And the main money has been on the pornography on page 3. The over exploitation of the page 3 pornographic weaponizing into pornographic kind of spot the page 3 image of the woman, almost without any exception, the white young woman. And Dirty Digger Murdoch has been made a billionaire. Then he expanded into the USA based on the money, and the record of Dirty Digger Rupert Murdoch's tax returns, as far as the United Kingdom is concerned, is not published. I cannot see any coverage, any reference to Dirty Digger Murdoch in relation to his tax dues and the actual payments. Having said all of that, I don't believe that the actual copy is admitting any of the blame. One of the questions that Marais says that the voters will want to focus on is why police have been allowed to stop policing crime. Well, the rest of the sentence is while merrily investigating everything else, like what people say on Twitter about trans issues, or whether any hate crimes have been committed online. Now there he is. He is still hung up on hate crime because he really is an inciter of hate crimes. So let's go into the actual history of the abolition of the policing by police. The policing in this country is supposed to be done on the monarchy's behalf, on behalf of the monarchy. Her Majesty's police, constabulary, etc., etc. So therefore, there is no political in the actual definition of policing. So there is no audit, political audit of the policing. But even if there were any political audit, there wouldn't be a political audit because on the facts, the elected members of parliament, the elected part of the houses of parliament, does not audit the executive. And as the row between Andrew Mitchell and the police about Mitchell's alleged swearing at the police at the entrance to or entrance exit from number 10 Downing Street or Downing Street premises complex shows when there is a dispute between the police and a politician, the scum has taken the side of the police, regardless of the evidence. And the demonization of Andrew Mitchell during the 2 years or so that the dispute raged between the police and the ex-minister, it became very clear that the scum didn't want to know about the actual behavior of the police, actual record of the police. Now, in all the randomly, let's say, checked and publicly accessible entries, let's see what the publicly accessible items are saying. Now, this is a piece dated the 22nd of November 2022, the randomly. And there are in the search about police failing to deal with crime in Britain, that is the search, it took 35 seconds to produce 340 million items. And the top of the 340 million items has revealed half of English police forces failed to meet this is an article published in the Observer. It says it's 8 months old. Half of English police forces failed to meet standards in crime investigations. This piece is dated the 26th of November 2022, and it's got a picture from the House of Commons Press Association of Suella Fernandez appearing before a committee of MPs. And there is a quotation from Yvette Cooper, the so-called shadow Home Secretary, who said about the findings of a report about the police performance. She said these findings are a damning indictment of 12 years of conservative mismanagement of the Home Office. Their failed policies have left policing overstretched and undermined with still 6,000 fewer neighborhood police, shortages of detectives, and record low charging rates. So more criminals are being let off, while victims and communities are let down. Richard Garside, director of the Center for Crime and Justice Studies, added, billions are being spent on a public service that appears to be underperforming badly. Of the 39 police forces in England, 29 have so far been inspected by HM Inspectorate of Constabulary. Her Majesties, remember? It's the monarchy thing, it's the royal thing. Under the new assessment regime, when it came to investigating crime, three forces were assessed as inadequate, 11 as requiring improvement, and 8 as adequate. Just 7 were rated good. And there is a woman called Harriet Wistrick, director of the Center for Women's Justice, is mentioned there. She said if police are cold and don't do anything or are completely slow and slapdash or useless about investigating something, then a perpetrator in a relationship will feel that he is able to continue without risk of sanction because nothing has been done. She said the issue was not simply one of resource, it also an understanding of the issues, the lack of specialism. If we look at response to domestic violence, there are issues about responding to call outs. But what's much more critical is how they respond, etc. etc. Now, our campaign has got evidence that the policing in London, for example, is staged by separating black police personnel from white police personnel. So when police arrive at any scene and are photographed or filmed, it can be seen that they are totally segregated based on color. Now, if this is done in public, where they're being photographed and filmed, then it doesn't take a lot to understand that internally, where there is no public access to what they're actually saying and doing, internally within the police forces, the thinking is very racist as well.
Here's what I've found.
And and there is this picture of mother and daughter, and the item is 9 months old, and it's a garden piece. The family accuses police of appalling failures to protect Ranim Uday and Kaula Salim, killed by Uday's abusive former partner. The two women, Ranim Uday and her mother, Kaula Salim, 49, were stabbed to death by Uday's estranged husband, Janbaz Tarin, in August 2018 after he had subjected her to stalking, domestic violence, and coercive control for more than a year. The pair were killed outside Salim's home in Solihull in Birmingham, while Uday was on the phone to West Midlands Police, one of at least 7 calls she made to emergency services in the run up to her death, many of which were played to the jury. At Birmingham Coroner's Court, an inquest into their deaths concluded on Friday that officers had breached the force's domestic abuse policy on a number of occasions. The jury found that officers failed to carry out effective investigations into potential offences committed by Tareen and failed to take sufficient steps to safeguard Ranim. Tareen previously admitted the double murder and was jailed for life with a minimum of 32 years in December 2018. Salim's sister, Noor Naris, said she had struggled to contain her anger when the 999 calls made by her niece were played out in court. Ranim told them everything they needed to hear to arrest him. From the first call, she told them about the abuse and how he threatened to take her life. She told the Guardian. The level of failure was appalling. There was so much evidence, but he wasn't arrested even once. He wasn't questioned even once. If the issue was addressed early enough, maybe Ranim and Khaula would be with us today. The Independent Office for Police Conduct said it found West Midland Police missed to take positive action for Uday and Salim. Now, this is fucking stupid. The behavior of the police is nothing short of crime, criminal complicity with the murderer. It's like the Chester Hospital preventing preventing other hospital staff for more than a year from contacting the police or informing on the police to was doing. Crime. What he is not saying is that it is happening everywhere. That is on the criminal scene. And literally thousands of crimes are being committed with complicity of the police who are behaving in comparable manners, refusing or failing to arrest the criminals that later on went to do murders. It is if the helicopters could be used to bring emergency quantities of water and the water sprayed from all 4 accessible sides of the building, Grenfell Tower, then the majority of the people could have been saved. But the fire brigade didn't do that. The fire brigade let the fire burn and murder and massacre the victims who could have been saved and should have been saved. So the culture, the racist culture that dominates the police forces also dominates the emergency so-called service, the agency, the fire brigade, and the ambulance. And the judiciary is completely devoid of any evidence, any track record of holding racist staff in the emergency services, emergency agencies, behaving racistly by withholding protection and safeguard that they should protect and safeguard the potential victims. And it doesn't just confine itself to the color of the perpetrators, the negligent operatives and decision makers being white. When it comes to elected councillors, for example, in boroughs like Tower Hamlets or in Newham, the vast majority of the elected councillors are not white. They are Bangladeshis or Asians and Africans. So, what do? These councillors do not hold the executive to account. Both Newham and Tower Hamlets have got executive elected mayors in post. The executive elected mayors are in charge in terms of having the power over the employees of the councils. The councils include emergency services that should be provided. One is the safeguarding the children duty, or the safeguarding the adult duties, and also the social services covering other aspects of the duties. But as Tower Hamlets Council has shown in the case collectively referred to the Bethnal Green schoolgirls that were first reported so none of this is mentioned in Douglas Murray's comment, because Douglas Murray does not recognize, as a racist, he does not recognize the existence of these Bethnal Green schoolgirls, and he would not recognize the existence and therefore the rights of the other African, Asians, and Muslim victims of negligence by the councils. When it comes to the report that I mentioned yesterday about the report in The Guardian saying that 26 English councils are in debt or about to fall in debt. So let's check where is it. 26 English councils. At least 26 English councils at risk of bankruptcy in next 2 years. At least 26 councils in some of Britain's most deprived areas are at risk of effective bankruptcy within the next 2 years, according to a leading local government group, which says many authorities, that is, the councils, simply have nothing left. And this is based on this piece in The Guardian. We just got a picture at the top of this item by Rob Davies, posted at 0001 British Standard Time on Monday, the 28th of August, 2023. A picture of Woking Borough Council, which is one of the at-risk councils. Research from body representing 47 authorities says many could follow Slough, Croydon, Thurrock, and Woking into collapse. Woking Council announced a deficit of £1.2 billion in June 2023 after a risky investment spree. This is a picture by Leon Neil, Getty Images. Britain's local government network has been shaken by a string of financial collapses in the past 2 years, starting with Slough and followed by Croydon, Thurrock, and most recently Woking, which announced a deficit of 1.2 billion in June after a risky investment spree. The quartet could be only the tip of the iceberg, according to a survey of 47 councils in northern England, the Midlands, on the south coast, which revealed mounting anxiety that rising costs will blow independent holes. I'll read that again. Which revealed mounting anxiety that rising costs will blow irreparable holes in budgets that fund crucial local services. 5 members of the special interest group of municipal authorities, SIGOMA, a collective of 47 urban councils, said they were in such dire financial straits that they were considering issuing a notice of their inability to balance their annual budgets for 2023 to 2024. A further 9 SIGOMA members said they may have to, in effect, declare bankruptcy next year. The group called on the government to provide additional funding to local authorities struggling to manage. Quite apart from these very general kind of references to bankruptcy, when it comes to the details of the expenditure, for example, what Lutfur Rahman in Tower Hamlets has been doing, he has been embarked on spending extra millions to decorate his mayor's office. And there is no sign that he will be held to account at all. Now, Tower Hamlets is not mentioned in that quartet, but the truth is, Tower Hamlets is one of the boroughs whose demography, because Tower Hamlets does contain the Canary Wharf area, but that is a completely apartheid, separate part of the borough. It doesn't actually go with the rest of the borough, the main population of the borough, which remains in the lowest income group, among the lowest income grouped borough councils in all of England. And yet, there is no evidence, there is no sign that any legal action is going to be taken to stop Lutfur Rahman doing what he is doing. Let's check that again. Now, this is a piece in the Evening Standard which is byline to Rachel Barford. chief political correspondent, dated the 9th of August. And it reads, Rao breaks out over Tar Hamlet's plan to spend thousands on lavish office for Mayor Luthuraman. Rao has broken out over lavish upgrades to Mayor Luthuraman's office in Tar Hamlet's new town hall. Its newly moved town hall, which is the old building that used to be called the Royal London Hospital or the London Hospital in Whitechapel Road. One of London's poorest boroughs. Now, that is the admission of the fact that I mentioned at the beginning before mentioning Rachel Barford's piece. One of London's poorest borough, well, that word should be boroughs, is set to spend thousands of pounds on a lavish makeover of the mayor's office, despite the council moving into a new town hall less than a year ago. Plans for Tar Hamlet's leader, Luthuraman's new executive workspace include a £50,000 meeting table and 30 luxury chairs. But critics on Wednesday, that is in August, slammed the relocation of a staff cafeteria at the council's Whitechapel headquarters so Mr. Rahman's office can be extended. Proposals due to be discussed at a planning meeting on Thursday evening include turning the building's chapel, currently a canteen, into an executive office. Now, the council's civic centre moved to the former Grade 2 listed Royal London Hospital in January following a £120 million refurbishment. £120 million in refurbishment? But a string of new upgrades have already been ordered. A £50,000 budget has been put aside for Mayor Luthuraman's meeting table and seats, with the council admitting it has already spent £24,000 on the chairs. Some £200,000 is budgeted for moving the mayor's office, while £25,000 is set aside for a kitchenette. The revamp was expected to cost a total of £450,000, but the final bill is under review according to council documents. There have been 66 objections to the plans. Tar Hamlet's Unison Branch Secretary Kerry Ann argued it was unfair to create an inferior space and fewer meeting rooms for staff use. Tar Hamlet's Labour said it would be grating for residents to learn that the lavish makeover is said to cost taxpayers a staggering £400,000. Bethnal Green East Councillor Shirajul Islam said, to see Mayor Rahman's extravagant spending spree is incredibly troubling for the residents. Nearly half of children in Tower Hamlets are growing up in poverty, more than in any other borough in the capital, according to the Trust for London data. Mr. Rahman returned to lead the council last year after he was barred from holding office for 5 years in 2005 for electoral fraud. Now, this piece goes on. I mean, this is repeating the stuff. Like in January, Mr. Rahman was forced to defend allocating an extravagant 1.4 million to expand his office staff, which included the hiring of a raft of consultants. Now, what is obvious, what is very clear in all these, is that if these are wrong, and they are wrong, where is the evidence of any prosecution of Luthuraman for corruption? Because this is not just spending too much money, this is corruption. Because what he is doing is bribing other crooks with council money. and putting them in positions disguised as consultants. What consultants? And there is no sign that Douglas Murray or anybody else in Fleet Street is bothered about Luthurama's criminality. So we shall move on to other topics because this is going to continue. That topic, the other topics include Croydon, of course, because in Croydon, for 5-6 years, Croydon was being openly looted and robbed by the executive gang belonging to the Labour Party. It had a model kind of administration structure consisting of a leader and the cabinet. But the behavior of the leader and the key showed the behavior similar to Luthuraman, as if there was already an executive mayor in place in Croydon. Essentially, what has happened is that Croydon has been stealing money. The Croydon gang has been stealing millions, hundreds of millions of pounds. And these thieves have been Labour Party thieves, and the Labour Party thieves appointed chief executive. But there is no sign of any, absolutely no sign of any prosecution of these thieves. So you extrapolate that kind of theft and apply to other bankrupt councils or councils that are going to go bankrupt. And you can find no sign of any evidence of any prosecution of the criminals in those places either. We shall be ending this particular broadcast at 42 minutes, and we shall continue in later editions to update